Allison Ryan. I'm a reading specialist, and this month is extra special because I've opened up my kindergarten literacy club and first and second grade literacy club for new members. I'm accepting new members through January 24th. And for anyone who is considering becoming a member, or even if you already are a member and you just want to see all of the goodies that are inside the club, then keep watching, because for the first half hour, I'm going to show you around the inside of the Kindergarten Literacy Club. You're going to get to see everything that's in there, and I'm actually going to show you the materials and things from this month and give you some tips for using that. So after I show you the screen and the login and what that looks like, then we will move into looking at the materials, and you will also get some tips. So if I have any Kindergarten Literacy Club members in here, I'd love it if you'd say hi in the comments. This is for you too, so that you see everything that you have available to you, and also just get some tips for using this month's materials that you can really apply to any month. So let me know if you're a club member or if you are thinking about it. I do have the URLs in this post that you should hopefully be able to see. All right, so first things first, let's take a look around. You should be able to see the inside of the club. If you can't see my screen, let me know, or let me know if you can see it so I can make sure that everybody is looking at the right thing. But this is what it looks like when you log in. And I created these clubs, whether it was the kindergarten or the first and second grade club, to provide ongoing support to teachers that goes way beyond just like one webinar here and there, or one blog post here and there, or one product. This is really a place for you to get ongoing support, both from me and from our other awesome Kindergarten Literacy Club members. They're super. We've had the club open for about a year, and everyone is just so supportive and welcoming. I really think we have a great group. But anyway, it's also a place where you can have a lot of different materials in one login. So this really cuts down on like searching on Pinterest and all the other places that we might search. I really wanted to show you this, or really give this all to you in one place. So when you log in, this is what it looks like. And you've got if you've just joined this month, you'll have your January 2020 materials. And again, I'm going to show you what those all look like, show you how to use them in a minute. But every single month, on the first of each month, or sometimes a little bit early, I will send you an email that just says, hey, your new materials are ready. You log in, you download them. They're always here for you to re-download at any time. But you get, as a Kindergarten Literacy Club member, you get 4 brand new center activities, which I'll show you this month. You get 3 guided reading books, a lesson plan, and a couple of activities to go with each book. And that's the stuff you get. And then toward the beginning of each month, we do a private webinar. So we're looking at the Kindergarten Literacy Club here. So Kindergarten Literacy Club members get a private invitation, and we do some mini bite-sized PD. This particular month, it was focused on behavior management. Often it is a literacy topic, but I don't know about you, but I can't teach literacy if my classroom is not well managed. So it seemed like a good topic to focus on in January. Got a lot of great feedback on it from the members. But you have a new one of those every single month. So that's the monthly materials. And again, I will show you exactly what those look like in a second, but I want to show you all the other stuff that you have access to when you log in. We'll just kind of go down the sidebars here. So in Literacy Essentials, these are just some like basic building blocks of teaching literacy. I have some suggested literacy apps for like Kindle Fire, iPad, I think one other device I have in there. I have some different assessments. So if you want to assess different phonological awareness skills, like, can they rhyme? Can they break up a sentence into its words? Can they segment? Got lots of assessments in there. Some phonics assessments, print concepts, how can they handle a book, your general alphabet stuff, all of that is in there too. So this is a great place if you quickly want to find out how a child is doing with certain skills. I've also got a suggested book list. It's like, I don't know, like 45 pages long. It's pretty long. I have all different topics because I don't know about you, but I hate it when I order or grab a book from the library and it's not appropriate for kindergarten. So in the kindergarten club, we have books that work well with kindergarten students, and I've got all kinds of different topics, whether it's, something seasonal, books about family, friendship. The goal of this with everything in the club is just to save you time so you can quickly, scroll or click on whatever you want to look at, and it'll take you to that. Has tons of titles just to give you some options and make your planning faster, because that's what the club is all about. All right, so again, that's in Literacy Essentials, but there's also a bunch of other stuff in there. There's a scope and sequence that I gave you for teaching reading, writing, phonics, phonological awareness skills throughout the entire year, just to kind of guide you and make sure, you know, if your school doesn't have something like this, that you're not missing anything. So that's in there as well. That's Literacy Essentials. Next, we have a little section called Professional Development Webinars. These are 60 to 90-minute webinars that I recorded specifically for my kindergarten teachers. Kindergarten's a little bit different from first and second, and so these are really focused on that grade level. We have teaching guided reading, where I go through how to teach guided reading in general, but also like level specific things, like when they're at this level, work on that. When they're at this level, work on this, to guide you through as kids develop in their reading. I also have how to launch and structure literacy centers in kindergarten. So it's not only how I do literacy centers, but it also gives you some other ideas, and it explains how you might launch them at the beginning of the year, which in kindergarten, I don't know about you, but that is one of the hardest parts, is just getting everything set up and getting things running smoothly. So that's in there. Same with teaching writing in kindergarten, and also how to implement shared reading in kindergarten. Those all come with certificates as well. So you get those PD credits for 60 to 90 minutes, depending on how long the webinar is. So those are in the professional development webinars. And again, you have access to this as soon as you log in. This stuff isn't tied to a month or anything like that. Next up is the newest part of the Kindergarten Literacy Club. Super excited about this. It's called Intervention Central. And like with this other stuff, this stuff is designed to save you time. So if you have a student who's struggling with, for example, you know, blending and segmenting sounds, there are different tools that you can open up here, and it will also give you the research base for, like, this is how to do it, and this is what the research says about it. There's directions. I even have a couple of instructional videos in here, just in case you're a visual learner and you like to see how to use things. Those little quick videos are in there, but there's all kinds of different blending and segmenting tools, for example. Let's see what else. There's also stuff for high frequency words, isolating sounds, reading beginning words, letter sounds. If you attended any of my webinars this week, then I showed you the multisensory alphabet book, and I showed you how to put it in a binder and use either like some kind of tactile paint, like puffy paint, which is really inexpensive. And you can put that on this book and make a book for the kids to practice reading. They just trace and say the letter name 2 times, B, B, book, bus, B says B, B says B. And if you put the puffy paint, totally up to you, but if you put the puffy paint on it, then they can actually trace it, which is awesome. So that is just one of the tools that's in Intervention Central. We got stuff for rhyming, because some kids struggle with rhyming. And then I also, this is not really relevant for most of us except for my Australian teacher friends, but I also have a bunch of back to school materials in there, and I will be adding more before next school year. I'm always adding stuff here, and you get it for free. You don't have to worry about like credits or paying anything else. Once you're a member, everything I upload, everything I add, you automatically get. So it's all yours. All right, let me see if there's anything else I wanted to share. So everything I just showed you, again, you have access to immediately. But on top of all of this, on the 1st of each month, you get brand new materials. And these new materials are really targeted, like for January, they're really targeted to help you cut down on the amount of time that you spend planning for guided reading or your small group and your centers. Because I don't know about you, but that chunk of time can be one of the most time-consuming things to plan for, because you've got to occupy the other kids. You want high-quality materials, stuff they can actually use on their own that's appropriate for kindergarten, and then you've got your small group. So I'm curious if that's a big time suck for you, is planning that block of independent work, small group. Be curious to hear if that takes up a lot of your time as well. But now what I think I want to do is I'm going to switch over to my document camera. Hopefully that will work, because I want to show you close up exactly what the January materials are. And I'm also going to give you some tips for using them. So let me know if you're already a member and you are already using these materials, actually in the club, we have some photos that a member has shared of how she set up the Dramatic Play Literacy Center. So if you're a member, look for that in the Facebook group. Super cool, but I'll show you what I have here. All right, let me make sure this is set up. Okay, so I'm going to make this screen go away. And I'm going to share this thing. Okay, so we're gonna add that. Hey, Mindy. Mindy says, not a member yet, but want to. Awesome. Hope this is helpful in making your decision. Mindy, were you looking at the kindergarten club or first and second grade club? Okay, I'm gonna make, okay, can you guys hear me again? I think I was just talking to myself. So sorry about that. Okay, I'm gonna keep talking and I'm hoping that you can hear me, but let me know in the chat. Hey, Tracy and Amy. Misty, hopefully it is back now. Okay, we're just gonna move on and we're gonna hope that it works. I thought maybe it would still work if I took the camera away, but apparently not. Okay, good, we're good, super. All right, well, these books will be a little bit smaller, but that's okay, as long as you can hear. Okay, let me rewind. What I was saying is that you get 3 leveled books every single month, and this month I believe the levels are A, B, and C, but it changes throughout the year. So like at the beginning of the school year, you would have, you know, more double A, more easier books. And this particular month, I wanted to include a lot of CVC words in here because at this time we really want kids to, if they're ready, get away from like pretend reading. Pretend reading is fabulous and absolutely part of development, but by this point I really want them to start doing some actual decoding. So I chose this topic of animals because I wanted to include CVC words like fox, pig, and this is a level C book, but again, you get the A and the B. So like, let's just look at the level A. So even for your level A readers, what I recommend is not necessarily going over the vocabulary of the animals beforehand, but what I really recommend is practicing blending the sounds together, even with your level A readers. So here's what I would do. Before you even have the kids read this book, I would put the word fox on the board and I would give them whatever that support they need to read it. So maybe you ask them what each sound is, maybe you help them blend, or maybe you go on the board, ox, fox, and then maybe you do it together, ox, fox, and then they go, ox, fox. I talked about this in my webinar, but it's really valuable for kids to start working on reading CVC words even before they've fully mastered those letter sounds. It gives them so much, you know, power, and they feel like they're reading, and it really helps them apply that letter sound knowledge too. So that's one of the reasons why I put so many CVC words in this particular book, because at this point of the year, we hope that some of those kids are ready to make that transition. So before you have them read this, before they start like looking at the pictures and guessing what the words are, take a step back before you give them the book, put the CVC words on the board and help them practice blending them. And this is true for your A groups, it's true for your B groups, and then your C groups as well. Different groups will need less or more support with their blending. This is like what the level B looks like. I think I have the right one. But either way, you want them practicing blending those words, ideally before they read the book. Let's see, what else? So with each book, you get a complete lesson plan. And let me talk to you about just some recommendations for using the plan. With a book at this level, I recommend only doing, I would say, 2 days max with it. You don't want to, if your kids are good with 1 day, then absolutely do 1 day. You don't want to drag it out too much because showing them more new text can actually help them move forward in their reading, exposure to new text. But I definitely think that you can spend 2 days on one of these books if that's something you want to do. And the lesson plan absolutely enables you and helps you do that. So the lesson plan will include the book introduction. I wrote out what to say because I find that when I'm introducing a book, I can kind of go on and on if I haven't written out like, okay, this is exactly what I want to focus on. Of course, it's customizable to your students, but I did write that out just to kind of give that and make it easy for you and cut down on the time because guided reading is always such a time crunch, right? So then the kids read the book, there's questions to discuss, and then I show you what to focus on afterwards, and it does kind of depend on what your kids need and what you notice them doing during the book. Sometimes you'll be able to follow the recommendations for the strategy or teaching point to the T, exactly what I have here. I usually try to give you some options. Sometimes you'll just say like, oh, like we really struggled with this during the reading and we need to do that. So that's really adjustable. And then every single one of these lesson plans, and again, you get one for A, B, and C, it'll have these follow-up activities. Hopefully, I know you can't read it exactly, but hopefully you can just see where I'm pointing. And I'll give you different activities for working on phonological awareness, phonics, and high-frequency words. Sometimes there's a little overlap between the level, but I try to make them really specific to each level. So I look at, what phonological awareness skills does a level B student need to work on? What phonics skills do they need to work on? Try to tie it into the book a little bit as much as possible, but there's a couple of different things. So if you want to use this type of lesson plan over more than 1 day, what I recommend doing is, you introduce the book, you have them read it, you discuss the book, maybe you work on a strategy or focus on some of the words that were tricky for them or revisit the words that first day, maybe not, but you can do that in 1 day and then you can come back, you can do one of the options for follow-up activities, come back, have them read the book again, which is good for fluency, and then do another option. You probably can do this in 1 day too. You're not gonna get to all of the options here and that's okay, but it's really flexible whether you wanna get through the book in 1 day or if you want to have it happen over 2 days. Susie, sorry to just be answering your question, but yes, this is the Kindergarten Literacy Club. I put a link for that post, or I put a link for the Kindergarten Literacy Club in my post. And what I'm doing now is just going over the monthly materials so that if you're considering becoming a member, you can kind of see what's available. And if you're already a member, you can see just some recommendations for using the materials. All right, so we just went over that you get 3 guided reading books, you get a lesson plan for each one. And now let's talk about these centers. So, these are all things that the kids can do independently, and they also actually make a great addition to your small group. The better the kids know how to do these activities on their, with you, the more practice they have with you, the better they will be able to do them on their own. And so not only are these activities great for independent work, whether it's centers or daily 5 or what have you, they're also a great addition to small group. And I recommend doing something like once or twice in small group and then having it become a center. I used to make the mistake of just like explaining it whole group and then giving it to them. And some things that works fine for, like for example, one of the centers this month is some writing, and you really can explain, model, and just give it to them. But for some things like this memory game that I'm going to show you, it does work best if you play it with them. So just something to have in the back of your mind when you are planning, but it also just gives you more to do with small group too. Okay, so this month, one of the, let me see if I can find a match. One of the activities is this like mitten match memory. And I actually also did it in a Valentine's Day theme, the same one. Is this upside down? Hopefully it's right side up for you. I really can't tell. I also did it in a Valentine's Day hearts theme so that, you know, if you're prepping for next month, you'll have that too. But this game is adaptable. There's little pictures on the mittens, and it's for phonological awareness, and you can play it in a number of ways. There's different materials. This set you might do for rhyming, cat, hat. You might do it for ending sounds. Cat ends with t, hat ends with t. So the kids, I mean, you probably know how to play memory already, but you know, they turn them over. You want to go over the vocabulary and play it with them first, but then they're trying to find a match, and totally customizable. So you can have them play if they're just trying to match the first sound. So like, for example, hat and hug both start with, you can have them play it that way. You can have them play for ending sound. So if they're looking for two pictures that both end with the sound g, you can have them play it that way. Or you can have them play it for medial sound. So like if there's a middle sound, eh, have them, you know, look up or find pictures for wig and pin or something like that. So they're just playing memory, mop, fun. Those don't start the same, and they turn it over. But you would just pick one skill, right? You would pick middle sounds, or you would pick ending sounds, and you would teach them how to do it using the materials in small group, and then you would release it to them as a center. You can also differentiate if that's something you want to do. Maybe some of your lower groups do need to just practice for first sound, but maybe some of your higher groups can do for medial sound. I included all three of those options in there for you so that you can differentiate if you want to, or just find what fits best for your kids. And again, I did include, so we have a mittens theme because it's January, but I also included a hearts theme because Valentine's Day is in the middle of the month, and you will get your February materials. I'm actually giving them to you a little early, surprise, but I just wanted you to have enough time to prep for Valentine's Day if that's something that you celebrate in your classroom. All right, so that's one center. Different levels, but still I only count it as one center. This next one is for high frequency words, but it's totally customizable. So you can have the kids, they basically have like a stack of these cards, and they are pulling a card and they're reading it and they're trying to match it to the word, but it's totally customizable. I learned how to use Adobe Reader to make this thing where you basically type in 5 words and it auto-populates all of the cards. So it's almost like a version of bingo, sort of, or just, you know, the kids all have different cards. They're reading their words, they're matching them, but you choose the high frequency words that you want to use. You can choose CVC words. Maybe you have more advanced kids that can read words with digraphs or blends. This is a really easy way to differentiate, and it literally takes about 2 seconds to type the words in, and you're good to go. So this little penguin game is one of the options in the January materials. And next up, I have just a couple more minutes before I need to switch over to my first and second grade club materials, but I want to finish showing you the kindergarten literacy club stuff. Next up, I have materials. I think this is upside down, sorry. I have materials for what I call a dramatic play literacy center. If you're able to incorporate play into your classroom, play is actually a great way for them to be, you know, practicing using reading and writing skills in like real life or pretend situations. So for in this hot chocolate stand, the kids are selling and buying hot chocolate. So you can have them, there's templates that have less text on here, so they can actually make, you know, this price sheet themselves, which is really fun, or they can just write the number. There's, you know, different materials in there. They can make signs, or they can use these signs. And then in the Facebook group, if you're a KLC member, go and look at Joanne's pictures because she set up the center real cute. I know other KLC members have too, but it just is adorable. So you can get some ideas from her photos. That is one of the centers. I don't do a play center every single time, but I do try to sprinkle them in there as much as possible. All right, that was center number 3 for the KLC in January. And then center number 4 is a class book. So I actually have 2 options, and I'm only going to show you one here, but I have a Valentine's Day option too that's like stuff that we love. But the winter class book is In the Winter We, and then you write like Mrs. Ryan's class here. And you show them the cover and get them excited about making the book, and then every child makes a page. You can choose from the page that is just like blank, like there's no sentence starters here, or you can use this one to kind of frame what they're writing, totally up to you. If you have kids who need a lot of support, like maybe they can draw a picture, but they really need help with their writing, I do try to let them do as much as possible on their own, but I also have included this word bank that you can give them that just has things like make a snowman, play in the snow, go ice skating, wear warm clothes, and little pictures to, oops, that's my signal that I need to wrap up the kindergarten literacy club stuff. But it has little pictures and words to help them with their page. Again, I try to let them do as much as they possibly can on their own, but I also wanted to give you supports because I know that students are at different levels. We also have some special education teachers in the kindergarten literacy club. So I always want to give you as many supports as possible. Okay, so we need to wrap up because in a couple minutes, I'm starting with my 1st and 2nd grade literacy club. I'll show you a sneak peek behind the scenes and also walk you through your 1st and 2nd grade club materials. But do let me know if you have any questions. You can also go back if you're just joining me and look around, or not look around, but go back to the beginning of this video because at the beginning, I was showing you what you can see when you look inside the kindergarten literacy club. These monthly materials, this is just 1 month, and there's so much more. There's PD webinars, there's the Intervention Central, there's a lot in there. So that will be in there waiting for you as well, and you can go back to the beginning of this video if you like. If you are looking at the 1st and 2nd grade literacy club, or if you are a 1st and 2nd grade literacy club member, in a second here, I'm going to start showing you that login, and I will also show you those materials just like I did with the kindergarten literacy club materials, so you can see what the January stuff is all about. You're welcome, Mindy. You're welcome, Susie. Glad this was helpful. All right, so let me try not to lose the sound this time. Okay, so we're gonna make that go. So what I'm doing is just trying to find the 1st and 2nd grade club. Okay, so hopefully let me know, just because we're having tech issues earlier, let me know if you can hear me and let me know if you can see the inside of the 1st and 2nd grade literacy club. You should be able to see the screen and everything that's available when you log in. All right, so I'm just gonna keep going and hope we're good, and then you can let me know if we're not. All right, so now we're shifting gears to the 1st and 2nd grade literacy club. I have 2 different clubs because I wanted to make sure that kindergarten teachers got what they needed and 1st and 2nd grade teachers. And what the 1st and 2nd grade teachers have told me is that they really like the fact that there's stuff in the 1st and 2nd grade club that is at a range. So they have stuff for their lower students and their higher students. So it works really well for them to have those materials combined in one place. So that is one benefit of having the 1st and 2nd grade literacy club. Thanks, Jessica, Nisetta, and Melanie for confirming that we are good. Hopefully we will not have any more tech issues today. All right, so looking around the inside of the club, every single month, just like the kindergarten literacy club, I send you brand new materials, and we are going to look at the club materials like more in depth, and I'll give you tips for using them. But just know that for now, you get, I'll just show you this real quick. You get 4 passages at different levels. They're all on the same topic. And you get a writing activity, you get audio for the passage, you get a writing activity, you get a phonics activity, you get a teacher sheet that goes with the passage, you get, what else you get? You get a vocabulary or fluency activity. And so you end up with, let's see, you end up with, I guess, 12 activities total and 4 passages. And again, I will show you those more up close in a second here when I switch to the document camera. But now I want to walk you through all the other stuff that's in there, because yes, you get your monthly materials, but there's also more that you have immediate access to when you log in. So the Literacy Essentials section, I'm still building up, and there's stuff in there already, but I will be adding more as time goes on. And my club members never pay anything else. When there's something else added, I just stick it in there. I'll tell you, I give bonuses all the time. I do love to spoil my club members. Kindergarten Literacy Club members know that, but you don't pay anything else. So anything that I upload from now on is yours. And in Literacy Essentials, which again, I will be adding more to, right now I have a literacy scope and sequence for reading skills, writing skills, and also phonics. So this can guide you in what to teach, especially if you don't have any kind of curriculum map or plan at your school. So that's in there. I do have plans for adding more stuff. There is a request box. So if you have a request for anything that will help you teach literacy throughout the year, feel free to let me know through that. Okay, next up is the professional development webinars. When I do a webinar for everybody, like a free one, I will do K1 too. But when I did these webinars, I recorded them specifically for first and second grade teachers. So we have, for example, how to teach guided reading in, first and second grade, specific to doing it in those grade levels. You get a certificate of completion that you can submit for your professional development credits, continuing ed, and those webinars are between 60 and 90 minutes long. So these are on demand. You don't have to show up and watch them at any specific time. You can watch them whenever you want. They're PD on demand is what I like to call them. Thank you, Lindsay. Lindsay says, best thing I belong to is amazing, total game changer. I am so glad to hear that. Okay, so those are the PD webinars. Again, as soon as you log in, you have access to those. And I also want to show you around Intervention Central. Super excited about this. If you were at any of my webinars this past week, then you already saw some of the materials, but I just want to make sure that you know where they are, especially if you're a current club member. So let's say Intervention Central is just in a nutshell all about you being able to log in and say, okay, I have some students that are struggling with X. Now I need something to help them with. Or to use to help them. So this one's for comprehension and vocabulary. I will be adding some more vocabulary resources in the future, which again, you just get for free whenever I upload them. I give you the research base. This should actually say comprehension, sorry. I give you the research base for the strategy that I'm using so that you know that it's based on best practices. And this comprehension strategy I went over it's like structure, I went over in the webinar, but it's basically a way to teach a comprehension strategy. It's a consistent structure. You use it to teach it explicitly. It gives you some examples of how to do that, a lesson plan template, and you get all the bookmarks. So I like to use a bookmark with the kids that just goes over the strategy in a little more detail. And honestly, it even helps me with my language because I want to make sure that I'm explaining these strategies in a way that's really clear to them. And so this has instructions for like how to use the strategy, and it also has like sentence starters for them, which is great for ELLs. When they're retelling, you can say this, you can say that. So it's really about language and giving them support. Because it's a bookmark, you can just cut it in half and give it to them when they go back to read on their own. So that is one little part of Intervention Central. Other things I have in here, I have something for repeated reading. If you were at my webinar, I explained how repeated reading is such a powerful strategy, and it's actually really easy. You can give this to a volunteer to do these procedures. So this has all the adult instructions. This explains it for maybe you have a parent volunteer or even just yourself if you want it very clear. It's very clear so that they can implement the strategy to help a student who is struggling. And I have 2 recording sheets so the kids are like tracking their progress. This first one is my favorite one to use, but there's 2 options in there. This intervention is so great. It actually helps kids with a lot of things, but it really helps with fluency. I also have in here some high frequency word practice cards as well as a template. And the thing that's a little bit unique about these is that it actually encourages the kids to think about the sounds in the words. High frequency words, yes, a lot of them are not decodable, so to speak, and the kids have to, just memorize them. But there's a lot of research that shows that often because there are patterns in high frequency words, it actually helps kids to think about the sounds and to think about, oh, well, I think it would sound like this, but it really sounds like that. So some things like with are decodable. Let me see if I can find an example of one that's not decodable. Okay, so like with the word have, you might think it's gave, and you can talk, or I'm sorry, if you might think it's have, like gave, and you can talk to them about how, oh yeah, normally this would be the long A sound, but this word is different, it's have. So these, again, are a little bit unique because they encourage the kids to look at the sounds and ask themselves, is the word a rule breaker? And then it incorporates a little bit of multisensory, or it tells them to do that, and then they write the word. So this is great for improving fluency and high frequency word knowledge. That is in Intervention Central. And then I want to make sure I show you some of the phonics stuff. If you are on my webinars and you're looking for that phonics assessment where it shows you, hey, if a student misreads these words and they misspell these words, then you need to work on this. So you give the kids this nonsense word assessment, and then based on where they make mistakes, sorry, I can't highlight this column, but based on where they make mistakes, it tells you exactly what to work on with them, which is really fast, or really helpful and a time saver. I also have a little spelling test you give them in conjunction with that nonsense word test. And again, it shows you if they make a mistake with this, then this is exactly what you want to work on. So this was in the file that says Phonics Practice Protocol, if you're looking for that. And then after you figure out what they need to work on, it will tell you what you can do with them to work on that pattern. So let's say they need to work on AY, it tells you, do this, do that. It just goes over a routine that you can use for many different phonics patterns. So again, that's the Phonics Practice Protocol sheet. These were a favorite during the webinars. These are my Say, Tap, Write phonics strips. Got them for CVC words, digraphs, blends, silent E, R-controlled vowels, vowel teams. And I created these because so often my kids were not wanting to take the time to tap out or say the sounds in a word before they wrote it. So I know that this is sideways on your screen, but like with MAP, they are supposed to, so you cut them out, they're strips. I wish I had one. I forgot to bring one to show you, but it's a strip. And they say the word, they go MAP, and then they go app, and then they write MAP. So obviously these are a little bit easier because they're CVC words, but we have them for all kinds of stuff like vowel teams. So a vowel team fits in a bigger box because there's two letters that make one sound. These little things show when there's a blend, so they blend the sounds together. But this is really all about getting kids to break down words into their sounds and to link that phonological awareness with the understanding of how letters and spelling patterns work. With silent E, I just show I don't have a box because there's no sound. So, and these are sound boxes. And so I just have a little kid going shh underneath, and so that prompts them to write the silent E that they don't hear. So these are the Say, Tap, Write phonics strips. And again, those are in Intervention Central inside the first and second grade literacy club. If you need help teaching kids how to break words up into syllables, I've got something for that as well. All the rules and posters. Phonological awareness, going to be adding some more stuff to this in the future, but these are just some tools to help them break words into their sounds and practice blending and segmenting if you have any students that are still working on that. So that is Intervention Central. This, again, is a place you go in the first and second grade literacy club. If you've got a kiddo who's struggling with something specific, it will give you some materials that have a base in research to implement with those students. All right, so I think now what I want to do, now that I've shown you some different things that are in here, again, I'm always adding, feel free to request something via the request box, but I'm going to switch over to my document camera. And with the document camera, I'm actually going to give you a close-up look at like what you get in January and how to use the materials. So if you are a first and second grade literacy club member, definitely keep watching just so that you get just some tips and ideas for using these materials in your classroom because they are very flexible. Vanessa, thank you. She says, just joining the class, the chat, love the KLC. It has helped me immensely. I am so glad, Vanessa. So Vanessa is a kindergarten literacy club member, and we are talking about first and second grade literacy club, but they're structured similarly in that they've got that ongoing support element with the private webinars, and they've got materials for you to use in small group and independent work. All right, so let's hope the technology works a little bit better this time. Okay, let me make that screen go away and let me add this screen. Okay, so if you can still hear me and if you can see my hand, would you please let me know just so I know that I'm not talking to myself like I was earlier and I didn't even know it. Okay, so when you print off as a first and second grade literacy club member, when you go into, the January materials and you print off the passages and materials PDF, this is the second page of it, and it goes over all that you have. And it also will tell you if there's any prep to do, just so you know in advance, like, hey, I need to cut this out, or I need to grab dice or something like that. Again, all about saving you time, so I put it all in one place. Okay, so next up, let's see, is there anything else I want to show in here? I think we're good on there. But inside this passages PDF, you have, as you can imagine, passages. You get 4 passages, and they are at different reading levels. So this particular month, I made this very tiny so you can see it, but hopefully the students won't notice. Like this is on the passage. I did put the levels. It's really small here by the copyright. But we have a level C, D passage. We have, what else? I did F and G, J, K, L, and M. So like L/M. So there's 4 total. On the passage itself, look for that QR code. If you don't use QR codes, that's not a problem because I also just included the URL. But kids can scan, or you can send them to this URL and they can listen to this passage read aloud. So this is fantastic for fluency. And actually you can even use it with that Intervention Central thing where the kids are practicing reading a passage multiple times, and you can have them read along at least one time with the audio, because reading along with a proficient adult reader helps them build that fluency. So each passage will have that with the audio. It will also have up here some key words, and you can direct the kids to these words before they're reading or after they're reading, discuss what they mean. Sometimes you may want to pre-teach these words before you have them read the passage, sometimes not. But I put these up here just to make it a little bit simpler to talk about that vocabulary or words you want to focus on for decoding before they read. So like this is an example of a passage. For each passage, you get this teacher sheet. And the teacher sheet is not necessarily a lesson plan for like one specific instructional routine. The passages really can be used in a variety of ways. So for example, one way that I use these passages is with my small groups. So I'll use it for guided reading or my small group or whatever. But you can also use them for something like shared reading, or if you do close reading. Does anybody do close reading or shared reading with their students? You can let me know in a comment, but these are also an option for that. And one nice thing about having different levels is, maybe you read a more challenging passage with the class, and that's great. But then when the kids are reading on their own, maybe you give them an easier version of the passage and they practice reading, and it still has a lot of the same content, but it's at a level that's more manageable for them. So you don't necessarily just use like one of the 4 passages, you use them with different groups, you use them with different kids. It's a really fast way to differentiate. Jessica, not a silly question at all. 4 different passages at 4 different levels? Yes. 4 passages, okay. So let me just show you the actual passages so you can see, so it's a little clearer. So here is CD, here is FG, same topic, and it has most of the same information, but obviously as you get up into the levels, you can provide more information because it's more challenging. So same topic, it'll have the same title. Like I said, the higher levels will have a little bit more information, but it's basically, all designed around the same thing. Jessica, does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if you need more clarification. Okay, so showing you the passages with the teacher sheet, you have suggested words that you may want to pre-teach, ideas for introducing the text, like what you might say to the kids, then post-reading discussion questions. You may not have time for all of them. Maybe if you do the passage over 2 days, you do some of them one day and some of them the other day. So January's passages aren't super long. I would say the future ones are a tiny bit longer. Nothing insane, but they're going to be a little bit longer. I also have a running record quick check. If you want to check a student's reading, of course, you can always just take the running record on the sheet because it's just one page. But I did include the text here just for your reference as you're teaching. And also if you wanted to, listen to somebody read and mark on it and see, write the student's name and see how their fluency was and all that good stuff. I just put that on the sheet for convenience. So you have one of those for every single passage. And this guy is so cute, little seal guy. For each one of those passages, you get a writing activity. I separated these out so I could show you all the writing activities in one place, but there will be one that I matched with each passage. The reason why I matched it is so that you could have leveled writing activities. So let's say you are looking at the level C/D passage, which is the lowest level for this month. You would pair that, if you have students at that level, with the writing activity that I included right after that passage. So for the C/D passage, the task is just they choose to write either about a seal or a sea lion. You can use the sentence starters, you can use the one with the sentence starters, or you can use the one without. Totally depends on what your students need. So that is one writing activity. And then I basically just kept upping the ante. I made it a little bit more challenging as the passages go up in level. But you don't necessarily have to give kids the same writing activity as the passage that they're reading. It really depends on your judgment and what you know about your students. You can mix and match with any of this stuff. It really is flexible. So a little bit more challenging, how are seals and sea lions the same and different? Again, we have sentence starters, or we have without sentence starters, totally up to you. A little bit more challenging. This goes with the third hardest passage, so like a second grade on-level passage. We have seals and sea lions Venn diagram, so they would actually fill this out. And again, you don't have to pair it with that passage. Maybe as a class you read the passage and then as a class you do this together. Or it can become independent work. You do it with them in small group and they go off and do that on their own. Or you start it with them in small group. Or you do the passage whole group, you read it whole group, and then they do this as independent. Super flexible. Be creative with how you use this stuff so you make the most of all of the materials. And I'm always happy to help you figure out how to best use them. Most challenging writing activity is taking it up to a whole other level. The prompt says, imagine that you work at a hospital for marine mammals. Someone brings in an injured animal, but they are not sure if it is a seal or a sea lion. Explain how you would figure it out. So obviously that's a big difference between write about a seal or sea lion. So just like the passages, the writing activities are leveled and they increase in difficulty. Maybe you use just one of them with all your students, or maybe you use them with different students, or maybe you do one activity one day and one activity the next day. It just gives you options. All right, let's move on to the phonics activity. So just like you have a writing activity that's paired with each passage, you also have a phonics activity. You don't necessarily have to have had the kids read the passage to do the phonics activities. They can stand on their own. I just pair them so that, again, if you know that you have readers at C/D, you might be working on short vowels with them. I pair them so the skills match well, but you can, again, mix and match. They don't have to have read the passage to do the phonics activities. They can stand alone. So for the lowest level, I have this short vowel detective activity. In this case, they do use the passage to find words with short vowels. I don't know if I can grab that sheet again, but Yeah, here's C. So they look in the passage for words that have short A, short I, short O, but it doesn't have to be this passage. You have them do it maybe with a different book that they read. Maybe they're reading a book that has a ton of word families or a leveled text. They can do the same phonics activity with really any book that you want. And of course, they can do it with the passage, so flexible. I also recommend not just having them do it once, really make the most of it. You know, maybe they do it first with this passage that goes with it, but then a week later you give this same activity, just a fresh copy, and they do it with a different book. Then you don't have to reteach something new, right? Next up, let me just take this off so it's not confusing. Next up, we have some blends dominoes. Let's see if I can show you this so it's not upside down. So we have like swim and act. And I actually underlined the blend so that it would be clearer for them. And what they do is they all get some dominoes, just kind of like the normal domino game, and they match by blend. So they would have to read it, swig, swim, and they match it. Then they're looking for, you know, either one that has the CT blend or this one has the SM blend. And so it's just basically like dominoes, but they're reading the words and their attention is drawn to the blends that are underlined. And they also have to explain to their playing mates that they're playing with why they put a domino there, and the others check their work. So it's not just about reading words, it's also about noticing patterns and seeing connections between words. So this is the second highest, or so I do a below level first grade passage and activities, on level first grade passage and activities. So like this would go with that. Then I do it on level second and an above level second. So you have this whole range of passages and activities that are like a little bit easier and a little bit harder. So that was the blends for the second highest passage. And next up we have the long E board game. Because we were doing seal and sea lion, and students at like, I think it's JK are working on vowel teams, I decided to do this little under the sea long E board game. Has like a ocean theme, and they are rolling the die and moving just like you would with a typical board game. But again, just like with the blends dominoes, they're not just reading words, they're actually having to tell their partners, their game mates, what the long E spelling pattern is. So I have them listed here. They read the word, and then they also show and tell them which pattern that particular word follows. So that is a board game that you can use. And then the last phonics activity, the one that's most challenging, which would be like above level second grade, is Connect 4 with diphthongs. And the diphthongs, this is upside down, the diphthongs are those phonics patterns that make a gliding sound like ow or oi. And so what they do is when you give it to them, it's totally blank, but then you have them, they just like they would drop, you know, in Connect 4, they drop one of those little counter things or the little circles. They choose a word to color in, and it's helpful if they've played the real Connect 4, by the way. You can play that with them first, but they choose a word to color in, and they have to either like somehow circle or underline the diphthong, which I have listed out for them at the bottom. But they're trying to get 4 in a row, just like any other. But again, they're reading the word and they're also paying attention to that phonics pattern. So this would be for your kids that know a little bit about diphthongs and are practicing them. All right, those are the phonics activities. So there were 4 of those. And then every single month, you also get either a vocabulary activity or a fluency activity for each passage. I'm alternating months. So this month was vocabulary, next month will be fluency. So these do go with the seal or sea lion passages. And the easiest version of this vocabulary activity is just where they are cutting out the words and they're gluing them based upon what they know their body parts to be. So some of your kids might need that. Some of your kids might need to do a little bit more, have a little bit more of a challenge, and they're still labeling. They're not cutting out here, but they're still labeling body parts. They have a word bank, and then they're also doing what's called a cloze passage, C-L-O-Z-E, where they're filling in these same words into sentences. So some of your kids might be ready for that. Then a little bit more challenging is a complete cloze passage, where it has some information that's actually a little bit It's connected to the text that they would have read, but it's also a little bit different. Like there's some more information, and they use the words in the word bank and they fill them into this passage. So some of your kids may be able to do that. And then last but not least, the hardest vocabulary activity, you can actually like maybe start with this vocabulary activity, and then later they move on to doing this as their vocabulary or as their understanding of those vocabulary words grow. But this is something where they take some keywords from the passage. These words were all in the highest level passage. They draw a picture of them and they explain what the word means, or they can just write a sentence with it to show that they know what the word means. This is the most challenging activity because, you know, if you start with something like matching, that's easier, but it takes so much more understanding of the vocabulary words to do something like this. So again, you have levels, you have options. Try to use as many of these options as possible with different kids. You can do one activity one day and do one activity the next. All right, so thanks so much for hanging with me. That was all of the first and second grade Literacy Club materials for January. If you're a member, I hope that's helpful in just getting some ideas of how to use them. You'll have new materials in just a couple of weeks when I upload the February materials. It will follow that same structure of you get passages, you get writing activities, phonics, and then it'll be fluency activities next month. So it follows that same structure, which makes planning a little bit simpler for you because you always know what you're getting. It's just that the text is different, the activities are different, and all that good stuff. You're welcome, Jessica. Thank you for watching. If you do have any questions, feel free to leave them in a comment here. You're also welcome to message me or anything like that. I have the Kindergarten Literacy Club that I showed you first, if you were here for that. I have the first and second grade Literacy Club. And I also have a combined club where if you're a specialist or you have kids that are just on a big range of levels, you can join both, and that has a discount. So if you're interested in both clubs, don't join them separately. Use that special combined club link that I put up there, because it's less expensive that way. All right, well, I hope this was helpful. Again, feel free to ask me any questions. The clubs are open for new members through January 24th. Really looking forward to connecting with you in the club. Don't forget, if you're a club member too, to join our Facebook groups. Awesome groups of teachers already in there chatting with each other, sharing ideas. If you're in the KLC, look for those cute photos of the Dramatic Play Literacy Center. So I will see you in the Facebook group. Feel free to email me anytime and have a wonderful rest of your day.